Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for HR Solutions Recruit and Retain. My name is Paula McCain. I'm one of the Senior Business Advisors for North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. For all you Led Zeppelin fans out there, today is Robert Plant's birthday. Cake will be served afterward. The SBDC is a leading provider of assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, and because of that, we can bring our services to you at no cost. Again, today's webinar is HR Solutions Recruit and Retain. Quick reminder, we are recording this session and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Today's webinar is interactive, so please feel free to raise your hand. You can use the small button at the bottom, type something in the chat will be monitored, or just unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comment. Our presenter today is CJ Ballinger. CJ started her career with the Texas Workforce Commission in unemployment claims, and over the years has served businesses in employee relations, recruitment, and in safety. She started My HR Consulting in 2012 to focus on serving small businesses. She's a certified senior HR professional and graduated from St. Mary's University with an MBA and is an OSHA authorized instructor. Her workshops include HR tools and tips designed for small businesses. Welcome, CJ. We can't hear you, CJ.
I think she's muted.
Thank you. I just got excited because I was like, I am a Led Zeppelin fan. Well, really more a Robert Plant fan, but that's okay. So yeah, that's good news. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I sure appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody who's joined today. And thank you so much for inviting me to present some helpful information for small businesses. So to start out with, I'm going to start sharing my my presentation. To start out with, if anybody has any questions along the way, feel free to throw your questions in the chat, because if you've got a question, somebody else probably has the same question. And if you have questions after the presentation, the contact information will be provided so that you can get help after the webinar, or if you're watching this on YouTube. So I want to just throw this out that I'm not just a presenter, I'm also a client. You know, when I went into business, I was able to find an advisor, my own small business advisor, who has been so instrumental in the success of my business and in just guiding me through the challenges of small business and just you know, all the challenges that have happened over the last 10 years. Been a lot. So I highly encourage anyone who doesn't already have a business advisor to look it up. It's free. It's a free service. It's paid for by your taxes. So don't overthink it. On today's session, we want to talk about how do we, as small businesses, how do we recruit? Because what we are doing is pivoting in a dynamic business world where we're competing with multiple industries. We're competing with corporate America, and sometimes as a small business, you feel like, hey, what do I have to offer? And I can't afford all these nice foo-foo tools, as Oprah Winfrey would say, as a small business. But if you're just clever and learn a few HR tips and tricks, you can do it. What I want to walk you through today are the hiring steps. And each step along the way, I want to share with you some how-to information that will protect you legally, but also be small business budget friendly. And then at the very end, I'll walk you through some of the tools that are available as well for no cost to Texas businesses. So buckle up. We already went over my background information. My disclaimer is that I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice. I can just tell you what my experience has been over the years and the tools that I have personally used to be successful in recruiting. So we're going to talk about some secret sauce here. And if you lose track, don't worry. Again, the slides will be available, and this is recorded on, going to be put on YouTube. So feel free to watch it again. Here's the hiring process, just a big picture snapshot of what the hiring process looks like. So what sourcing means is when you go out and you find job candidates, where do you go? Where are the good ones hiring? And then how do you know if they know what they're doing if you don't test them in some form or fashion? And then once you know who you're going to hire, how do you make the offer legally? And what kind of background checks do you need to conduct, or reports that you would need to submit after the fact? So that's what we're going to do, is walk through step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, if you have questions along the way, just throw them in the chat and we'll go ahead and get to it. So job postings, hiring, retention, all of those have one thing in common, and that is a good job description. Sometimes it is so difficult to figure out what should a job description look like? And sometimes some of us, including myself, have left corporate America where we had a whole department of attorneys that were writing job description and handbooks for, and providing information for us. And so as a small business, what do you do when you need a job description? So what you do is you copy and paste. All right, there it is. There's the secret sauce. I've put a couple of websites that you can go to. One is called OnNet. This website was put together by the Department of Labor specifically so employers can go grab the job descriptions that they can refine and tweak according to their needs. And so why reinvent the wheel if that information is already at your fingertips? Another resource is called SHRM. That's the National HR Association. Sometimes they will have templates, just job descriptions, and just information that's available for free. So I would encourage you, if you need a job description, if you need to rewrite your job descriptions, go take a look at what's already out there and available to you, and see if it could help get you started. So I don't know if anyone's heard about essential job functions or not. Essential job functions are the functions that have to be done by a job candidate. And typically, when you're looking at a job description, the anatomy of the job description will list the essential job functions first. So, for example, if you've got a job, in EMS job, one of the essential functions is that they would need to perform CPR. It may not be something that they have to do every day, but it's essential for that job. So that would be one of the first job duties that would be listed in your job description. You want to make sure that anything that you put in your job description is 100% job relevant. What does that mean? That means that if I'm hiring a custodian and asking for a master's degree, there's probably not a connection between the two. Do you really need to have a master's degree in a custodian to do a custodian job? Do you need to have a college degree? Probably not. Do you need to have a high school diploma? Maybe not. So it's very common when employers sit down to write their job descriptions to think about all the things that they would want to have. But what the EEOC says is that if you don't need a requirement, a qualification to do the job, then you ought to be asking for it. So really think that through. What do you really need a candidate to have in terms of qualifications before you put that on your job description? Think it through, go through and what knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs, that they need to have. What are the physical demands? Will they need to regularly lift 5 pounds overhead? I can tell you that OSHA does not want to see employees lifting over 50 pounds by themselves. So if your job description says must be able to frequently lift a 100-pound bag of flour, that probably could be called into question. So think that through. What are the actual demands of the job, both in terms of what somebody brings, the skills they bring, the qualifications, but also the physical demands of the job as well. Again, go back to your resources and start there and do just a process of elimination of what it is that you need. Be sure as you're going through the process to track your applicants. This can be so overwhelming for a small business. You're thinking, I don't have time to write a job description, much less track everybody who applies. But if there are anything is ever called into question, your applicant tracking will come in and save you, right? And plus, it also is a time saver for you. You can rank, sort, filter, communicate with applicants if you're using a tool like an applicant tracking system. What I like also is tracking the source, because I want to know what is the most effective source for the applicants that I'm getting. I may be able to throw a job ad out on Indeed, for example, and I may pay, say, $200 for that job ad. But am I getting a lot of candidates? Am I getting qualified candidates? I want to know if I'm getting a return on my investment as a small business, and that is what applicant tracking does for you, in addition to protecting you against any kind of claims that could happen. So again, my favorite cost is free. So why not take a look at creating or developing an applicant tracking system for yourself? The one that I use on this list is Smart Recruiters. I don't want to say it's the best, it's just the one that I'm most familiar with. And you can easily go in and set up a job board for your company. Put your job description, your job posting online, and then share a link to that job anywhere you want. Applicants can then easily upload their resume, complete questionnaires, provide information that you might need as far as any kind of certifications, and do it all in a matter of minutes. I like to tell my clients, you really need to keep your applicant process very tight, very clean, because it's so competitive nowadays that if it takes more than just a few minutes to apply for a job, you've already lost a pretty good number of people. So that is the reason why you see a lot of businesses are using QR codes. They're using tools, ATSs that are mobile friendly, because the number one way that people conduct business nowadays is on their phone. So take a look at these applicant tracking systems and see if any of them might work for you. And then you can work smarter, not harder. So let's pretend like you've done your homework, you've written your job posting, you've developed your applicant tracking system, everything looks great. Then what do? Where are the best candidates hanging out? Again, you don't need to spend a lot of money to attract candidates. I've seen small businesses buy ads on a number of different job boards and really not get the applicant traffic that they were looking for. Or they end up getting a lot of applicant tracking, but nobody shows up for an interview, or people don't have the minimum qualifications. So something that I like to do is to go into groups that are within applications. So for example, Facebook groups. I have seen small businesses be very effective by posting their jobs on Facebook groups for groups that are within the geographical area in which they operate. So you could sign up to be in a group and just make sure that it's okay to post a job ad and attract people in a certain location, or attract people who are in a certain profession or a certain industry. You can do the same thing in LinkedIn groups. And what I've seen is small businesses join LinkedIn groups in a particular area of interest, a particular industry, a particular profession, and they become the subject matter experts in a particular group or particular area. And then they can start recruiting from those groups as well. Same thing with other social media that you might not normally think of as recruitment material. Pinterest, for example. A college alumni, if you're looking for an intern, you're looking for a college graduate, most colleges, I don't want to say all colleges, but all the colleges I know of will have a career board for their alumni so that you can go and post your jobs there, typically for free. Texas Workforce Commission, free. Craigslist, it's not just for serial killers, it's also for legitimate business and legitimate applications for employment. There is a small fee that goes with it, $25, $35, just depending on your location. And then professional associations. Take a look and see, what industry are you in? Are there groups, associations? Sometimes you might pay a little bit of money to post on an association job board. Like, say, for example, if you're hiring for nurses, is there a nursing association in your community? And how much would it cost to post your nursing position with that professional association? Those are very targeted ways to go after your ideal candidate that maybe not even actively looking for a job, just browsing around on social media or in a professional association, and you get to grab their attention. By grabbing their attention, I mean that you want to approach your recruitment like as if you're marketing for your next employee, like almost as if you're marketing for your next client. So think about that. Think about the job ads that you've seen lately. Are there a lot of words? No. Are there a lot of details? No. Is it a complete job description? No, it's eye-catching, it's quick, it's graphic, it's mobile. So when you go to develop your job ad, approach it from a marketing standpoint of something that would appeal to your audience, as approaching it as a laundry list of job duties. If you need help with that, you can go to canva.com, fiverr.com. I've used both of these tools. They're great. They're inexpensive, if not free. And use those tools that are available to design a big ta-da job ad for yourself. And even if you want to maybe do a video and post that, make a link to where somebody could view the video and really kind of take a look at why someone would want to go to work for you, and put your best foot forward when it comes to catching the eye of your next great employee. Who makes a great employee? A great applicant. Think about your current employees. Who are your best employees? Be open to paying them a referral fee if they refer good applicants to you. Studies have shown that the number one source of quality candidates is from current employees. And why is that? It's because they typically will know the people that they're recruiting for. They'll know their story, their history, and they're going to have to work with them. So they are highly motivated to refer candidates that are going to be quality employees for you. And you might spend a little bit money on a referral bonus, but you can lag it out. So you can go, okay, I'm going to pay out a referral bonus upon hire after 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, a year, so that you don't have to have a cash flow issue in the process. But be sure and put it as something that is going to appeal to your employees, and is going to motivate them to refer the best candidates. So when you find good candidates, what do you do then? Right? You've invested all this time and energy. You have a stack of resumes in your email or on your ATS. So what do? You can conduct interview questions. But typically you're going to want to keep them either behavioral or situational. So behavioral, give me an example of a time when a customer became angry with you. What happened and how did you deal with it? Situational, how would you respond if you had a disagreement with a coworker and felt bullied by them? How would you respond to that? So those are the kinds of questions that you're going to ask. I used to work with a supervisor who said, do you want a job or do you want to work? Well, everyone knew the answer to that question. Everyone would say, I don't want a job, sir. I want to work. And then 30 days later, he would be hiring their replacement and ask them the same question. It was not effective. So be sure and spend some time on developing the questions so that they require an open-ended answer. If you get down to your final, say, top 3 candidates, don't be shy about putting a panel of interviewers together, even for your small business. Do you have managers in your business? Do you have a board of directors? Do you have employees? Do you have colleagues in your industry, a business network? Pull together people that you know who know your job, know your industry. Maybe say 3 to 5 people and take turns asking questions to your top candidates. What happens is after you go through all this process to interview, conduct a panel interview, you're going to find that you're going to have conversations with the other panelists, and they're going to pick up on things that you miss and vice versa. So compare your notes after you've gone through a panel interview. Try to reach a consensus on who the winner is, and then you can feel a little more comfortable that you're making the best decision for your business. I highly encourage panel interviews if you're hiring someone who's going to be strategic for your business, a supervisor, someone who's going to be customer facing. It doesn't have to be difficult or scary, but it does require some preparation and thought to make it happen smoothly. So just food for thought. So now you've gone through winner, chicken dinner. You know who it is you want to hire and you want to make an offer. How do you do that? Let's talk about at will. At will is so confusing. A lot of people think that at will means right to work. Actually, right to work has to do with unions. And that is a outdated form of taking a look at who you can hire. At will states mean that we don't have an employment contract. That's totally different than working with unions. So take a look at that and go, okay, I'm not creating a contract with this person. And so when I offer them a job, I'm going to make it clear that this is a conditional offer of employment. They have to pass the pre-employment process in order to be hired. There's no promise of continued employment. So whether they work for you for 30 days or 30 years, they're still an at-will employee. And when you go to communicate with them in writing, i.e. an offer letter, let them know that their salary is annualized. So instead of telling them that you're going to pay them $12,000 a year, let them know that you're going to pay them $1,000 a month, which is annualized at $12,000 a year. Does that make sense? So you're not implying that you're going to pay them year after year. The whole point is that someone cannot come back to you and say, you owe me the rest of my year's worth of pay because you promised me a year's worth of employment. So just be careful about making promises of continued employment. So when you go to make the offer of employment, you're going to want to maybe look on SHRM or another website tool that you could use to create the offer letter for you. This presentation provides you with a reference so that you can see what not to do, but don't be shy about creating an offer letter and getting it over to your new candidates. It looks very professional, and it also provides you with some backup in case there's a disagreement about what you have offered down the road. So you know who you want to hire, you've made an offer, but now you need to go back to the other candidates and let them know that they weren't selected. What do? What you want to do is standardize your response. What you don't want to do is use this as an opportunity to become their personal life coach. Don't critique their resume. I've had people come back and say, what could I have done better? What could I have done different? And what I wanted to say was you could get rid of the misspellings in your resume, but I'm not their personal coach. I'm not going to argue with them about what is on their application or resume. I'm not going to get personal. I'm just going to let them know that we found somebody who more closely matches what we need. So when you go to let people know that they didn't get the job, make sure that you just remain totally professional about how you approach the situation and not treat it like they're your personal best friend, but keep it clean, keep it down to business. Now you've decided who you want to hire, you've made an offer, and you need to do a background check, for example. So what you're going to want to do is provide candidates with their Fair Credit Reporting Act rights. What happens is that some people think that the Fair Credit Reporting Act rights only apply to people who have a credit check run. I think because the word credit is included, but in fact, the law requires that you provide these rights to candidates if you're background checking them, like a criminal background check. So provide them with their Fair Credit Reporting Act rights. It's available for free online. And then if you do have to revoke a job offer because of something that showed up on their background check, let them know what it is that you found, let them know where it is that you found it, and provide them with their rights again. Once upon a time, I had to make an offer to twins. One of them, the only difference in their names was just the spelling of their middle name. But one of them had been in trouble with the law, and one of them had not. And so once we got that all sorted out, who's who, we had to go back and tell the correct individual what the decision was, that we couldn't make we had to rescind our offer because of what we found on their credit report. But what we did is we provided them with the information so that if there was a mistake, they could go and get it taken care of. So that's your responsibility when it comes to background checks. When it comes to drug testing, it's really up to you. I know the Department of Transportation, or DOT, requires a 5-panel drug test, but you do have the option to pay for a non-DOT 10-panel drug test. I personally prefer the non-DOT 10-panel because it will capture possible abuse of prescription drugs. We have a lot of that nowadays. And so to me, it is worth spending a little bit of extra money to get a 10-panel test done, just in case there is an issue with something besides, say, marijuana or PCPs. So just think about that. Drug testing is not required. Unless you're a driver or a DOT driver, it's not typically required, but it is something that could be a very good idea just for the safety of your employees. So now you've gone through the process, you know who you want to hire, you've provided them with appropriate tests. Now what do? Some businesses are required to do additional reporting. Now, all Texas employers are actually required to report new hires for child support. What you'll find is that most of your payroll systems will do that for you. I would just take a quick look at the payroll service that you used and see if it includes new hire reporting. If it does, then just check it off, right? They'll take care of this for you. But there are other reports that are required depending on the type of business that you are. For example, If you are a little bit larger, you're a small business, but you have more than 50 employees, you may be required to file an EEO-1 report at the end of the federal fiscal year, which is September 30th of every year. If you are a federal contractor, you may be required to file what's called a VETS 100 report. And basically that tracks who of your applicants and your new hires are veterans. For those federal contractors who have more than 50 employees, you may be required to have an affirmative action plan. That's a whole other beast, but just be aware that if you are a federal contractor in growth mode, sometimes you might win a contract and add 20 employees all at once. Take a look at that and see, okay, will I be required to have an affirmative action plan on hand? Because it might be a requirement of you keeping that contract. Also, take a look and see if you might qualify for any tax credits. So for example, if you hire veterans, people with disabilities, people who've been recipients of SNAP, you might qualify to have a tax credit. You file the paperwork, it doesn't take much time. You submit the paperwork and see if you can qualify for a tax credit. Also, Texas Workforce Commission could help point you in the right direction to see if you would qualify for subsidized employment. I've seen some small businesses where they are able to hire and train, say for example, a bookkeeper, and the state of Texas has a grant that can pay for 80–90% of their salary, especially in their training period. So take a look at that. Look at your local Texas Workforce Solutions Center and see if you would qualify for a subsidy. You also might qualify for a state subsidy for skills training. There's free training available for both new employees and existing employees. So if you feel like that you've got training that all of your employees need to go through, or maybe even annual training that your employees need to go through, be sure and just check that out, because if the state will pay to train your employees, that's a good thing, right? So let's talk about some mishaps that could happen along the way. So here's a list of different employment laws that can come into play just depending on how many employees that you have. If you notice Title VII, this is commonly referred to as EEO laws, and the EEOC is the commission that oversees Title VII. That starts at 15 employees. So if you have 5 employees, Title VII not going to typically apply. If you have 15 to 20 employees, you may want to start paying attention to the different employment laws and how they might impact how you recruit. ADEA is age discrimination. That starts at 20. ADA protects people with disabilities. That starts at 15. State law breach of contract, that is a Texas thing that could come into play regardless of the number of employees. And then if you've got employees in multi-states, be sure and check out the employment laws. If you've got employees in Texas, Colorado, and California, they're going to have different employment laws that apply. So just take a look and see, okay, do these apply to me, and do I need to be sure and write these into my policies or into my job descriptions? Because your best defense in this whole process is to say, I didn't know. I didn't know about somebody's disability because I didn't ask them about their disability, right? I asked legal questions in the interview. what you're going to find is that the law assumes that if you are asking candidates illegal questions, that there's a reason for it. And what you know can hurt you. So be careful with those. If you have any kind of questionnaires prior to the application, for example, affirmative action, sometimes those are mishandled and can create discrimination issues. Also, I've seen small businesses ask candidates for copies of their driver's licenses or information that could be used for background check. Here's the deal, is that most of that information is going to ask for somebody's date of birth, which then gets you right back into a possible age discrimination situation. I'll give you an example. One time I was hiring for a warehouse position, and a candidate submitted their DD-254 along with their application. The DD-254 is the release or discharge paperwork that the military provides service members. And typically you're going to see honorably discharged on the DD-254. Well, this gentleman voluntarily submitted his, but what we didn't realize is that it had his date of birth. So he went to the EEOC and filed an age discrimination complaint because he said that he was not hired because we knew his date of birth. We had to go through a lot of effort to track, explain, and report on who applied, what we did with those applications, and ultimately who we hired and why, all because of some paperwork that was voluntarily submitted with the application. So one of your best defenses again is, I didn't know. I didn't ask for their date of birth on the application. I didn't ask for when they graduated high school. And so I had no way of knowing how to discriminate against them. So what do? What you do is you ask, where have you worked? What did you do? What's your highest level of education? Not when did you graduate high school? Have you ever been convicted? You don't want to ask if somebody has ever been arrested, because that has been deemed discriminatory. Can you perform the essential job functions? And again, you've already done your job description, so you can just check that off. You know what that is. You can conduct job-related skills tests, for example, computer skills tests. You're just going to want to make sure that you are consistent and in terms of how you test candidates. You can't pick and choose who gets to take a computer test and who doesn't. So just be careful with that, and make sure that if you're going to use some sort of online test, that you know that has been tested for its validity, and that you know what a cutoff score is. Cutoff score means you have to make, say, for example, 70% in order to pass the test. So do a little bit of homework if you're going to have test. What you don't want to do is say, oh, I see you have a limp. Is it an old football injury? That's an interesting surname. Is that Irish, Jamaican, Nordic? Where do you go to church? Do you plan to have children, right? What are your family plans? Have you ever filed for workers' compensation? And hey, I see you've got a lot of gray hair, so what are your retirement plans? These are all examples of questions that I've heard managers ask over the year, and just resist the urge. Again, your best defense is, I didn't know because I didn't ask. So just kind of polish your interview questions a little bit. And I've got a sample list. If you would like it, contact SBDC, and they'll provide that along with the slides of today's presentation. So here we go, just to wrap up. Practice document retention on your applications, meaning you keep them for 2 years because that's the Department of Labor. That's how far they go back on their investigations. Don't doodle on the resumes or the applications. Those can be subpoenaed, and you don't want to say, man, this guy's really too old on their application and then have to submit that to a jury later, right? Don't conduct background checks before the offer. You have to make a conditional offer of employment first. Same thing goes for physical or drug test. Make a conditional offer of employment and then run the checks that you need to run. Don't collect extraneous information along with your application. Don't ask for their driver's license. And if they try and provide additional information, say thanks, but no thanks. We just need your resume. We just need your application, and we'll go from there if we need additional information. Also, be careful about online searches, because sometimes you can find out about discriminatory information from the search. So just be a little cautious with that, because again, you want to say, I don't know, because I didn't ask, I didn't look, and protect yourself in that manner. So you've got your employee and they seem to be working out okay. But then, wait a minute. They want to know, are they going to get a pay raise after 30 days? Are they going to get a pay raise after 60 days? And you as a small business, you're thinking, wow, can I afford, I found really good employees. Can I keep them around? Can I afford to keep them around? And the answer is, people come to work for more than just money. Believe it or not, small businesses have a distinct advantage, because with small businesses, you're not just a number. You're not just employee BR549. You're a person. And if you treat your employees with respect and dignity, if you're able to provide them with job security, or you're a family-friendly business, then your employees will be more likely to stick around. What I've seen is that as time has moved on over the years, that work-life balance has become more important than making big bucks. I've seen job candidates take pay cuts to go to work for companies that allow them to be at their kids' soccer game. So that's what you have to offer. That's your competitive advantage as a small business. How you treat your employees, making them feel like you care, feel like they're a person, giving them job security so they don't feel like that they're, it's easy to make a lot of money, but what good does that do if you're going to get laid off a month from now, right? So even if you can't afford to pay top dollar, if you are offering job security in a family-friendly environment, you can keep your employees around without having to pay more than you can afford. Think about that. Think about the benefits that you have to offer, not just in terms of health insurance. We all think about health insurance, or even vacation pay, PTO, but think about what other benefits that you have to offer that make you competitive with corporate America, so that you can attract the best of the best. Measure yourself. How well are you doing? You can easily use online tools to take a look and go, okay, here's my turnover rate. Here's the average turnover rate for my industry. How am I doing? If you've got candidates that are resigning, do an exit interview. Ask them, what did you like about working here? What didn't you like about working here? And then sit down and calculate out how much turnover is costing you. Studies have shown that it takes an average of $5,000 to find a new employee, with an average of 42 days to fill? What is that costing your small business? Could you afford to add wages or add benefits to offset the cost of turnover, or as some people call it, turnover? So take a look. What are your employees like? Do employee satisfaction surveys. You can use SurveyMonkey, Survey Gizmo, Google Forms to develop your own custom employee satisfaction survey and find out what matters to your employees. Look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and benchmark your wages. Are you paying enough? What are your competitors paying? What is your industry pay in general? Be sure to be in tune with that. You don't want to pay too high or too low. You really want to strike a balance in terms of your competitiveness and what you pay. Communicate with your employees. They love to hear from you. I can't tell you enough how demoralizing it is for employees when they feel like they only hear from their boss when they're in trouble or if they've messed something up. So be sure and praise your employees, communicate with them, and let them know that if they have any issues that you're there. And then review your hiring practices for continual improvement. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my slide presentation and cut over to a couple of websites that I want to show you that are very helpful for particularly Texas business, right? So for starters, I want to share with you a website, and Paula, let me know if you don't see this on your end. It's called Especially for Texas Employers, A to Z of Personnel Policies. Remember, we talked about developing policies and practices, learning what it is that you're required to do for the size of business. This is a free website published by Texas Workforce Commission. So if you ever need any help with putting together some policies and practices, processes for the HR side of your small business, this is the place to go. So remember, we talked about that one of the things that you might want to do for your candidates is drug testing. Well, what do? How do you go about that? You can go to this website and take a look and say, okay, here is a drug-free workplace policy that I can use to notify my candidates that they can be drug tested. You can go in and download a free copy of a drug and alcohol testing consent form so that when you go to send people for a drug test, you get their consent, their legal consent before doing so. Driver policies, let's say that you're hiring for drivers. There's so many different policies, so many different free instructions. You can even go in and take a look, do a quick read on how to go about using job descriptions, essential functions, agility test, physicals. All that information is explained on this website. And the link in the slide deck goes straight to this page. So you can search alphabetically. You can also search the index, and you can also request a hard copy book as well. So I would say make this website your new best HR friend. Again, it's my favorite price, free. So also take a look at the Texas Conference for Employers. This is not free, but it's a good return on your investment. And TWC regularly conducts business conferences uh, for Texas businesses, and they charge a nominal amount. Some of these are in person, but some of these are virtual as well. And so, oh man, I'm just seeing this. South Padre is sold out. Okay, so September 27th, Drats. I was actually thinking about going myself, but South Padre is sold out. What you will find is that on September 6th, there is a virtual session. You can sign up for that and you can look at the agenda as well. So use the tools that have been provided to you either for free or for inexpensively. And before you go and spend a lot of money or waste a lot of time trying to figure out the best way to go about hiring and managing the HR side of your business. So the next thing I would like to share with you is information on a job description. So I want to take a look at this job description with you, and I'll share it with you here in just a second. I got it pulled up, and I would like y'all to take a look at this job description and let me know, what do you think could be improved? So let me take a look here. Can everyone see this clearly? Making it as big as I can. Here is a customer service job description that I pulled off the internet, and this is one of the reasons why I would love for you to go to the ONET website, because it's not really a good idea just to go any old place and start copying and pasting for your business. But if you look through this job description, what are some of the things that jump out at you as maybe not the best idea? Let's take a look at this. How organized is it? Where is the list of job duties versus the requirements? And what are the requirements? Seems a little bit subjective. Has to have thick skin to handle complaints. And possess a passion for excellence. So how do you measure that? How exactly do you measure if somebody has thick skin? And if you look, this job description is a little disorganized, requires 1 year of customer service experience, but then later on it talks about using automated systems, compiling and generating reports, and then at the very bottom you'll see that it gives you an overview. If we dissected this, we would, number one, we would rearrange it and we would put the overview first. We would make sure that we list out all the responsibilities, job duties in one place, all the requirements in one place, and that our requirements are as objective as possible and our requirements, actual requirements of the job. Take a look and go, you know what? If I require someone to have thick skin, or if I require someone to be patient, have a patient and friendly attitude, how do I interview them for that? How do I figure out what that even means? So when you're going to write your job description, you need to know that that's your first impression to your new, hopefully your new best employees. And so if they look and see a job description that's disorganized, that's what they're going to think about what it would be like to work for you. So take a minute to make sure that you're making a professional, clean cut impression on your candidates. So let me go back to the slide deck, and I will start sharing the slide deck. Hopefully haven't lost anyone in the process. And so there we go. All of this again will be available for you. So if you're watching this later on YouTube, you can easily get copies of the training materials that we went over. And the link is included, the links are included in the slide decks. So just get a copy of the slide decks and go check out these website and the free effective tools that are available to you as a small business. So thank you for taking the time. I know some of this can be kind of dry, but if you've had a bad experience of hiring, you'll know that it is worth its weight in gold to make sure that you are hiring correctly the first time. So Paula, do you have any questions or feedback?
Well, if anyone has any questions or comments, please unmute yourself or put it in chat. Feel free to ask CJ anything. And while you're getting your thoughts together, I have a couple of things, mainly comments. I'm an HR geek myself. And I worked at a job where they said, we're going to do an employment contract for you. And my HR, nerves just went on edge right away. But they said, it'll help you understand what we expect of you, and you and us understand what you expect of us. So here comes 2020 and COVID. And I was the most expensive thing that they had.
Oh,
So I said, but I have an employment contract. And they said, well, there's no money. And I handled the finances. I knew how much money there was. But I didn't do it to retain my job. I actually did it to point out that you gave me a contract so that I would know I would have expectations of you, and now you're breaking it. And it's just, if you make it a contract or a practice or something, then you've got a guarantee, an implied guarantee, and that didn't exist there. So just
that is a
thought.
perfect example. I mean, Paula, like, the company, they did not foresee that.
No.
And the thing is that people get confused because they say, well, Texas is an at-will state,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
they get that really confused. But if you create either a written or implied contract of employment, then you have just eroded your at-will rights,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, and so, you know, definitely that that helped you out in terms of being able to say no, but wait a minute, we have this agreement.
Mhm. Yes, so hopefully going forward, they have not made that same mistake. But, we'll see. Um,
It is very common for small businesses to want to put their employees on contract without realizing what exactly they're doing.
exactly. Have you ever used AI to create a job description or a job posting or anything like that?
I have not personally used AI, but I know it can be done, and that is one of the things that is developing in HR. Have you seen that in action yourself?
I've actually done that.
Wow,
I
Paula.
have. But with AI, you have to verify everything.
Yeah.
So I knew the parameters, I knew the job description, I knew the job requirements. I asked AI to build me one, and it was great. It was perfect. And then I asked it to build a funny one. And it was hilarious. It was hilarious, but it was eye-catching. You know, if I didn't have the artwork, I had a funny job description that would be eye-catching. So I've used it, but it again, it's a tool, and as long as you verify what you're working with and that you haven't misstated anything or, you know, something that could look strange to whoever's reading the job description. But I thought it was fun, and I thought it created a great job description
So,
or
so
job posting.
here's the thing is that what a time saver that is, because I would rather have something to work with and just edit it than have to do something from scratch, right? That's the point of AI or any of these tools, is that it gives you a starting point so that you're not having to feel like you have to reinvent the wheel and write, a homework assignment from scratch. So brilliant is all I can say.
And I do have a question, still my question, but is there a way to ask in an interview if somebody anticipates absence within the first 90 days of their employment?
So I wouldn't limit it to 90 days because
Okay.
that gets back into a probationary period. And one of
Okay.
the things we'll talk about in the next session is that probationary periods can kind of erode your at-will rights. But I do think it is important to talk to your applicants about their attendance. If they've had issues in the past,
Mm-hmm.
if they, let them know what the requirement is for your job, the attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will ask, is there telework available? And if there is, great. But if not, be honest with them and ask them if that it would be an issue that they have to show up and be in the office in person.
Mm-hmm.
You do want to include, and we'll talk about this again next on the next session, is an attendance policy. And and let them know that attendance is important for your business, and that these are the hours of the job. This is where the job happens. And could that be an issue for them, or even if has that been an issue for them in the past?
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, thank you, CJ. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, but like I said, I'm an HR geek. Uh, so I'm going to share my screen real fast.
Okay.
And so that everyone can see all of the upcoming webinars that we have. You can use the QR code in the upper right-hand corner to actually register for those webinars. Whoops, sorry. There we go. And on our website, you can register for the webinars. You can get our contact information. You can schedule an appointment or even look for the resources that we have for small business already on our website. Tomorrow and next Wednesday, Cash Flow Wednesdays. And then we have more financial with and tax and QuickBooks. And then on the 3rd, September 3rd, we have CJ back with Hiring Smart and lots of, looks like employment law and more tax. But this is not all that we have coming up. We've got scheduled through December. So keep looking. We have a lot of really good information coming up soon. We are grant funded. And because of that, I would like to give a shout out to our benefactors, the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, the North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College, our host institution. Thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And y'all have a good rest of your day, and this will end the webinar. Have a good one.